Big breaking news we're tracking. It's setback for the government in the Rafale case. The Supreme Court has dismissed the centre's plea that privileged documents cannot be admitted in hearings. The Supreme Court will now examine these classified documents which were published in the Hindu newspaper. Now, this means that classified documents which the Hindu had sourced without authorization can now be considered as evidence and a basis for a re-examining of the Supreme Court's decision, its own decision in December on the Rafale case. A date to hear that review petition will be announced soon. We're waiting for more details of that judgment of the court. In that verdict, remember, had given a clean chit to the Modi government over the deal for the Rafale fighter jets. And citing internal notes of the Defense Ministry, a series of reports were published by the Hindu which said that the ministry had objected to parallel negotiations for the jets by the Prime Minister's office, and also pointing to the documents, a series of petitions then called for a review of that verdict. So that is the big story we are tracking right now. Let's just take a look at what Mr. Arun Shourie, one of the petitioners in this case who actually asked for the Supreme Court to relook at its Rafale judgment, what he had to say.
This is a big setback for the government of India. Do you consider so? And what are the contentions made by the government and your side also?
Oh, the government, I don't know what they consider as a setback. I mean, every lie of theirs is a setback. But anyhow, the judgment goes completely against the arguments that were put forward by the government through the Attorney General. One, that, these are secret documents and they have been stolen. And we had argued the contrary, that look here, the court has held earlier on many occasions that the way the evidence has come forward is not material. What is material is whether the evidence is genuine, and second, whether it is relevant. Now, the Attorney General, by saying it is stolen, established the genuineness of the documents, and secondly, that the documents were relevant and our arguments are relevant is shown by everything.
And also raised the issue of national security and it is OSA.
And we had said the opposite, that precisely because it concerns national security, you must hear it. You must examine these documents because the lives of our servicemen are at stake. And the security of our country is at stake. So precisely for that reason.
It was a unanimous decision, sir. Tell us more what happened in the court.
Well, the Chief Justice read out the operational paragraphs and said that in a second separate order, we will fix the date for hearing the review petition.
So next date of hearing likely when, sir?
That we don't know, madam.
So, big shot.
Thank you so much, sir.
Barua, to you, a big moment for the freedom of the press. The Supreme Court, they're upholding, in a sense, investigative journalism, the manner in which the press is looking into issues, rightfully questioning, issues that need to be questioned.
Oh, absolutely. I think that, critical inquiry, independent journalism is, really the spirit of what we do. And I think this is a message that goes out loud and clear to everyone that, there is a time to ask questions. And, it's not that the media has not been asking questions. The real issue is that, as Mr. Shourie was also mentioning, that we are now at a time when the court has now agreed to look into these documents and how the key issue is the genuineness of the documents, and which has in a sense been established by the government itself. So I think that going forward, the critical thing is that there should be a process put in place which looks credibly at what has happened. Whether this now matter is before the Supreme Court, we'll have to wait and see, how the court proceeds with this entire process now.
Right, Amit, and the centre argued very, very strongly, Mr. Venugopal argued for the centre about, national security, how this was actually something that periled national security, and it almost seemed as if they would also be taking action against the Hindu for having published these classified documents.
Well, I think nobody is really, no one is questioning, the aircraft itself, the fact that the aircraft is a good one and its use in, for the Air Force will be good. There's no question about that. The key question is that any deal, you can ask questions about it. And that's what democracy is about, that you can raise questions. You can, if you have documents in your possession, you can publish them. And it's really up to the government and, the other institutions to come up with a response. But my real point is that there are certain dubious, facets to this deal which has been clearly exposed. I mean, the Defense Secretary of India at the time writes that parallel negotiations are being conducted and it's not good for the process. I think that's a very serious, thing for the Defense Secretary to write. I think these are things which these questions have been raised to which there are no real answers as far as the offset clauses are concerned. A number of details have been highlighted in this. So I think that the way ahead really is for the government also, if it has nothing to hide, as it says, and there's been no corruption, is to come out and, accept and that the full inquiry must be held. I mean, finally, in a democracy, no one is above the law. Everybody is answerable to the processes and institutions in a democracy. And if we weaken our own institutions, we weaken national security. We weaken a large number of the institutions that we built up over the years, howsoever imperfect they are. They cannot be bypassed. They cannot be sidelined.